Hi, everyone. So my name is Hale Crumley. I am the coalition coordinator at an organization called Prosperity Indiana. And today I'm going to be talking about creating and managing successful state and local advocacy coalitions. And just sort of a preface, the reason why I wanted to do this conversation is because I would attend conferences with lots of other state partners. And I would, just briefly, as you're chatting, explain what it is I do. And people would get really interested and they would be like, wait, you do statewide advocacy coalitions? They're 7 years old. How is that sustainable? What are you doing with them? But obviously, quick disclaimer, this is a model. This is the model that's worked in Indiana. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is the way it's structured, which is a two-pronged model. Then I'll talk a little bit about administrative power, which is a really awkward thing to talk about when it comes to any kind of collaborative. But you have to talk about it because that's an important part of whether or not it's going to be sustainable. And then also practical engagement, because if you want a statewide coalition with actual, people participating and longevity, you have to have a way to engage them. So first, the two-pronged model. This sort of describes the structure, because if you were to look up collaborative or collaboration, there are like a million different structures you can choose. And the real question, again, is whether or not they are manageable and sustainable. So this is what we do. We have a steering committee and a general body. The steering committee is the guiding group. It's the smaller private guiding group. So this has statewide representation. I very intentionally recruit people from different corners of our state, and also, from homeless service providing to, looking at housing authorities, all sorts of diversity there. We actually have about 18 right now, and I'm capping it at 20. I have decided that is what is manageable for us. It's free to join, unlike some board memberships. We don't ask for donations or anything like that. Their donation is their expertise, which I do not have and I very badly need. It's a private email listserv, so not anyone can just join the steering committee automatically. That being said, though, the membership is elected and people can self-nominate pretty much any time during the year. But that being said, it's a private email listserv because we do policy advocacy and we build relationships with legislators. So we get intel sometimes that we cannot just be sharing around. We've got to have sort of a cone of silence so that we can be productive and get bills passed. This group meets virtually most of the time because if you want to be statewide and stay as big as Indiana, and there are many states bigger than us, you can't expect the homeless shelter director from northern Indiana to drive down to Indianapolis every time you have a meeting. That's ridiculous. So really they only meet in person about once a year, and it's because they want to. We go to a brewery. It's a whole thing. It's a lot of fun. And then there's the general body. It's the group that the steering committee is leading. So in the general body, again, statewide, anyone can join. We have people in all 92 counties. We just hit 2,000 like 2 days ago. So that's very, very cool. That being said, it's free to join and it's a public email listserv. So this is where you get into what does it really mean to be a member? We don't require anything of members as far as participation goes. Honestly, just keeping people informed is one of the most important steps in our opinion. So if all they want to do is read our newsletters, our quarterly newsletters, and they don't want to come to any meetings, they aren't ready to act on our action alerts, that's fine. They can still be in the coalition because that means they're interested. And that is so, so important. They meet virtually always, except for our state house days, which we do have usually 2 a year. One is tenant focused and one is just in general who wants to come talk about their housing concerns. Okay, so next, administrative power. Like I said, this can get really, really awkward when it comes to collaboratives. There's got to be some coordination. So this is how we do it. There's kind of two pieces here. So we have the lead organization and designated staff person. And again, a little controversial, but the lead organization is responsible for providing the designated staff person, seeking out grants or using their own funding to fund the work, and then maintaining sort of an online presence for the group. That's the main thing that Prosperity Indiana does for our statewide coalition. The other thing, Prosperity Indiana has no extra voting power. So everything we do in the steering committee that leads the general body is done by vote. And steering committee members all have equal votes, including the organization that gets the grants and staffs. You might think, why am I doing all this extra work if I don't even get one extra vote? Nope, because that just won't fly. It really is all about being one organization who steps up. And that's how we found is successful for keeping things together. The designated staff person, who is, of course, provided by the lead organization, That's me. I'm the designated staff person. So it's not my full-time job to lead the coalition. Like I said, there are 3 of them. And I'm also a lobbyist. So I am doing that all the time too. But it is a significant part of my job and is my designated responsibility. And that's how you know it won't fall through the cracks, because someone is responsible for it. And that person's responsibility is what I do. I establish ongoing structure for the steering committees, making sure that they're meeting with each other, reminding them when it's time for a vote. Sometimes conversations go on and we have to make a decision. I'm the one who said, hey guys, we need to vote. I'm overseeing the elections and recruitment. So trying to say, here's who we currently got. Wait a minute, why don't we have anyone from Southern Indiana who's working in homelessness prevention? Why is that gap there? I need to fill that gap. I need to find that person. And also just keeping the general body engaged and informed, which is the next thing we'll get to. But, like I sort of led in with, this can be really awkward. Not every collaborative is set up this way. It's really tricky to talk about who has administrative power and administrative responsibility. And when you go in your state and set up a coalition, you may not choose to do it this way. I'm just giving you an example of what we found has worked in Indiana. And like I said, all 3 of our coalitions, even the one that is 7 years old and still going strong, are all structured like this. We've seen great success. So next, practical engagement. That general body, you have to keep them engaged. If you want to keep them informed on the issues and very much hope that one day they'll come to the State House with you, you have to be able to keep them engaged consistently over time. Otherwise, they're going to unsubscribe. They're going to stop engaging. So let's say you go to an event, you've got your steering committee set up, and you want to get that general body. You want to build out around the state or around your city, and you got to start getting emails. You have a sign-up list. Okay, you have a list of emails. Now what? These are the things that I do, and I highly recommend. One thing is a quarterly newsletter. So this is kind of how I structure them. I have an opening letter from me, designated staff person, and I say, hello, Hoosier Housing Needs Coalition members. I hope you're well. Did you know it's Older Americans Month? Let me tell you about the housing needs of older Americans. I talk about upcoming events, both the ones that I host and the ones that our partners host, because it doesn't matter who they're getting it from as long as they are learning more about housing needs and engaging in those. We give coalition and policy updates, especially policy updates. During the legislative session, I do not expect homeless shelter directors to be following what's happening at the State House. I also highlight articles and publications that are really big, that are interesting. So when the National Alliance to End Homelessness recently released their big report, I sent it in our newsletter, and I wrote a little bit about it so people would know what this is. And then something that I like to do, which is totally optional, is featuring a coalition member, again, to make it feel real, like they know each other, even though it's statewide and that is a lot of people. We also do quarterly meetings. Quarterly meetings, the sort of layout is introductions, which we do in the chat, because there's way too many people to go around and spend the time to get to know each other like that. In the quarterly meetings, we also do policy updates in every single one, because we are an advocacy coalition and there's always something going on. We don't want to just wait to the legislative session to spring it on people. By closing out with action alerts, because it's good to remind people that there's always opportunities for them to touch base with their legislators, and open the floor. This is the time for them to service. This is the time for them to say, I want to be on your steering committee. What do I have to do? Or did you know that we're experiencing this in Central Indiana? And I say, no, please tell me more about that. Let's have a call. Something else that we do throughout the year, just when there is time, is advocacy trainings. I don't want to assume that a direct service provider feels comfortable and knows the laws surrounding being a nonprofit advocate. There are things you have to do with the nonprofit reporting. It is really very important. And some of those trainings are actually really expensive. So we provide them for free. We do about 3 a year minimum, and work so we can other places when we can. It's all about making it accessible, really. You don't want to assume that every single person, your 2,000 person coalition, has all of the tools they need right now to become a policy advocate. We would love for them to, but we don't want to assume that they have that. And then action alerts, of course. So the way I write these, I try to do a quick summary of the issue at hand, which usually they should already be up to speed on, because hopefully they've been reading the newsletters, a tool that identifies their legislators for them. Do not assume that they know who their legislators are. And, remind them that it's not just where your office is located. It's your service area. So even if your office isn't located in this legislative district, but you serve there, you can contact that legislator too, and you should. I often provide a template or a phone call script too, because again, people have jobs. I don't expect them to spend 4 hours doing the action alert I sent them, so I want to make it easy. And then a deadline, of course. So these are all things that I have found to be practical ways to engage people that are repeatable. You don't have to build out this framework every single time you do it. And that makes it manageable for the staff member who ends up being in charge of it. A few more quick tips. Every event you attend or organize or lead is a recruiting opportunity. You will see on the next slide that I have a QR code. Not that you guys would engage in Indiana policy, but if you want to see what we're doing as an example, you can join the coalition. Every time you present, use a QR code and let people join your group. Everybody has a job outside of just doing advocacy. Most of them are service providers. So you need to be building the tools for them and frankly, not asking too much. I have to remind people of that all the time. I have funders that want me to send more and more action alerts and, achieve more things in policy. And I'm telling them, these people have other jobs. We need to be reasonable about what we're asking for and rely mostly on their expertise. And then also just want to know, voluntary collaborations are very difficult to make feel real, both to the people who may or may not want to join you and the people who want to fund you. So take pictures. And I will say funders love it too. I send them pictures all the time and, getting anyone to fund a statewide advocacy coalition, it just sounds so nebulous. The reporting measures can be very hard. They love the pictures. It goes a long way. So I'm going to wrap up here.